Welcome everybody to episode 8 of Building an HO Layout. Let's begin. In this episode, we're going to be tearing up this part of the layout and adding some more detail to the scene. But first, one of the things I did off camera was I added this old sticker just with some info of the layout. I also finally figured out the color of my parking lot. And lastly, I rounded off some of the corners of the intersection just because it looks a lot more realistic this way. Alright, for this beginning job, I'm going to be using a chisel tool that I have. And replacing it is going to be this dirt that I got from my own backyard. So here I'm just removing the ballast I already had down. I just didn't like the way it looked, so I'm going to remove it completely and replace it with dirt. And I'm just making sure not to tear up the foam underneath it. Now that it's all removed, we can start with some paint. Once I have paint everywhere I want dirt, we start putting down the dirt. And using a cheap foam brush, I spread out the dirt. I also use my container just to capture all the dirt that falls off the edge. Next up, we're going to cover up the tracks with some poster board. And in this case, I cut it just to get more of an accurate fit. First step is isopropyl alcohol, followed by scenic cement through these two little bottles. And there's my cat. So like usual, I'm going to spray the isopropyl alcohol pretty heavy on the dirt, and then follow it up right away with some scenic glue. Now that the isopropyl alcohol and glue is applied, we can remove the masking. While that dries, we're going to work on the scenery. I'm going to be using my light green bushes and a whole bunch of stuff I find in my own backyard. Which includes this. I think it's some kind of dead weed or something, but that's going to be the first thing that we're going to use. And with the tweezers, we're going to remove the little ends of this little weird brush thing, and we're going to use these little ends for little turfs. So now using some tweezers, we're going to clip off the end of the little weed thing. And as for gluing, I'm going to be using my tacky glue. So here I grab the weed by the top, and I apply a little bit of glue on the bottom. Then it's a matter of placing them randomly throughout the layout, just so they look realistic. And also, if anyone knows the name of that weed, please drop it in the comments below. Next up is going to be some twigs. All I did was break the twigs up a little bit into small pieces and applied glue like the little weed things and put them around randomly. Then I added some larger twigs to give it a little bit more variety. Next up for the scene, I'm going to be using some ballast to ballast this little track area. And I'm going to be using Woodland Scenic's Fine Gray Blend Ballast. Using a small little cup, I pour the ballast on the track a little bit, then I use a brush to spread it out very gently. And to get any ballast off the ties, I simply just use the end of the brush and tap the rails. And then I continue the process all the way to where I want to stop. Here it is all prepared for glue. Now for gluing, I use a pipette and I glue from the top just so it doesn't run down the sides. Next up for scenery, we're going to be using this Briar Patch by Woodland Scenics. And here you can tell I've already put some of the light green bushes. Same process as the other bushes, I put a little bit of glue on the bottom and I stick it to where I want. And we finally have our first car on the layout. It's a Subaru Sandbar, and I'm pretty sure it's to scale. Either way, it looks good on the layout. Now at this point, I'm just gonna add a couple more bushes and maybe a couple more trees or twigs, and then I'm gonna let it dry for a little while. But so far it looks really good. Here it is actually the following day, and I've added a little bit more dirt patches like on the corner on the top right, and I did put one tree at the bottom left of the building. And it's pretty wild that a lot of small details can make a big difference. And here's the tree I put. And what's wild about this is I still have a lot of detail to add to this little layout. But that's the fun of it. Well, that wraps up today's episode. If you have any comments or any questions, just drop them down below and I will be sure to get to them. And on that note, I will catch you guys in the next one.